Hello and welcome everybody to my first episode of History Notes, where I will be exploring sort of my currency collection and sort of the history behind each one of these banknotes that I have here. So this time we have Belarus, so I will be kind of doing little snippets of the Belarusian sort of history and a little bit more beyond that in this video. So what I have here is the currency from 1992, which is after the fall of communism from the Soviet Union. Now, why this is 1992, not 1991, is because Belarus couldn't actually print out their own Soviet currency until then. So then we have here number 10, 25, 50, 100, a lynx, moose, bear, and a European bison, which is the symbol of Belarus, basically. So yeah, there are other the currency, the smaller currencies where there's like 5 rubles or 1 rubles, where it's like wolves, beavers, a hare, squirrels. The higher ones with rubles, I don't have those either, but they are sort of special buildings and whatnot. So now what is getting really interesting is on the back side of each one of these rubles. And we see here, if you might notice this is actually the coat of arms of Lithuania. Now that's quite interesting since this is Belarus, so why would they have this? Well, Belarus also sort of took this up, this coat of arms since 1918, and they used it until 1995. And well, so the reason why they did this is because it has a lot of historical significance back in the day. So this goes back all the way back to the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which Belarus was a part of during the time. So, what was the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, you may ask? This was a huge kingdom that spanned from the 14th century to the 16th century in medieval Europe. So it had a lot of Russian influence in the beginning from the late 1300s, where the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, they took up many Russian influences as they reformed economically and politically, and they also reorganized their military to be in the Russian sort of style. However, they were also influenced by the Kingdom of Poland, which was to the west of them, and they sort of joined up together because of the Teutonic Order, which was attacking them at the time. So they sort of joined up together, and this was the Grand Duke at the time, Jagiello, and he actually married a Polish queen. He was baptized under the Christian faith, and he also changed his name to Władysław II. So then the Grand Duchy of Lithuania then took up many more of the Polish sort of culture and whatnot, rather than the Russian culture. So it began replacing that in a sense, and the Polish kingdom with the Grand Duchy of Europe also became a little bit more closer, as the Lithuanian Grand Duke Casimir was actually picked by the Poles to be their king, and so that sort of strengthened things. And it's surprising that the Polish kingdom didn't actually pick one of their own people to be king, so that strengthened bonds. But it's also something to note that during this sort of whole, Polish and Lithuanian sort of unity, it was only really a unity, and this was still considered the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. But that sort of changed when the Tatars were attacking down to the south. So Lithuania kind of needed some help, and they couldn't really sort of control that territory that they have. So they sort of needed the Polish help, and they kind of wanted to be by themselves. However, Poland also took a third of their land, so they're sort of forced into this formal official unity, which became the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, or the Polish-Lithuanian Confederation. So that's some pretty interesting history there. And one more thing I just like to know is just that there's on the shield of this knight, which is from the coat of arms of Lithuania, you see right in the middle, is actually the Slovak sort of emblem, or their coat of arms, which is quite interesting. And the last sort of bit of history say here, this is a sort of currency that started popping up in the 2000s. So they no longer had these anymore, the old currency, they had these. So this was a new Belarusian ruble, which that meant 1,000 of these equal to be one of these. So they sort of revalued their currency and they had a whole new currency with it. So what you see here is the gates of Brest Castle Hero Monument in Belarus, and here is also the sort of the front entrance of a sort of a star built in or dug into concrete. And this is a very important historical location in Belarus, and to many it's considered the most important since it has many historical value to it, and it started all the way back as a fortress in the 1830s, 1840s. But the reason why this location is very important to the Belarusian people is because of all the Belarusian lives that were lost in World War II in this location. So during 1939, the Soviet Union has gained this sort of territory which included this location, but also when Nazi forces were attacking the Soviet Union in their first sort of invasion in 1941, this is one of the locations where they were trying to fight it back. So many Belarusian lives and Soviet lives were lost on this soil, and ultimately they did lose it, but over time, once like 3 years, I believe, is when they were the liberation of Belarus was being done, and it did had many free Soviet major forces came in with 3 different Soviet generals, but one of them was a Belarusian, like a push forward into Belarus, the liberation of Belarus with a Belarusian general. So here are the watermarks, which I also think is pretty cool, because the first 1982 ones all have sort of a watermark across the entire sort of banknote, and it has like all these geometrical shapes. But then the 2001 has basically just the same thing. I hope you enjoy my first episode of basically this sort of series of my currency collection and going into the history of each one of them. They're supposed to be designed to be like short little snippets of history, and I hope you find some interest into this, and I hope, if you're more really interested in this, that you could, look more into the history, because, these are just snippets of history, so that is all I have today, and I will be doing more of this with all currency all around the world, because I do have currency all around the world. So see you later, and yeah, bye.